Hey everybody, Justin the Diabetic here. This week, as promised, I have my Omnipod 5. I did get the pump on Wednesday. Today is Saturday morning, so I started it. I've been on it from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we're at about the 72-hour mark. I did pick it up I got it delivered about lunch on Wednesday. By the time I got started, it was about 1 p.m. And at the time of this recording, it's 11:30 a.m. on Saturday. So it has been almost 3 full days now. I'm going to do an unboxing of what comes in the starter kit, which is this, as well as my initial impressions and some cool things that I think that Omnipod did very well with this pump. So stay tuned and let's dive into this week's video. Okay, so I have slid the little box cover off of the Omnipod 5 starter kit box. Just a little, nice fancy looking cover. I think Omnipod did really well with this box, so I'm trying to hold it where you guys can see it. They do have a little pod piece of tape here, which I thought was very cool. This is what the top of the box looks like. It's got some pump information on the side, and then it just gives you the rest of the box, and the bottom is just white. It is magnetized. I don't know if you guys can hear that. So it does magnetize closed. So when you open it up, it says welcome to Omnipod 5 on the inside. You get a let's get started in 3 simple steps information manual. You get the quick start guide. Sitting here on the very top would be the PDM and a pod for you to use in your training. Underneath that, you get 2 5-count boxes of pods. So the starter kit comes with 11 total pods. The charge brick and the charge cable is a USB to USB-C for the PDM. Then they give you a pack of 3 pod pals, just some extra adhesive that'll go around the pod if you needed it. And under the very bottom, if you pull all this out, is the quick start guide. I think they could have done a little better with the placement of that in the box, but that's beside the point. So let me try to get all of this back in this box. I think it's, yeah. So just to kind of show you what a full 5-count box of pods looks like. Oop. So here's how they come stacked in the box. And this is 1 pod. So you will get the pod itself, the syringe, and then the needle for the syringe. So you'll connect these 2. It has fill lines for the minimum line, which I believe is around 75, 80 units of insulin. Then you have a dash at 100, 125, 150, 175, 200. And then the max, the furthest that the plunger will come back, I would believe is about 220 units. I haven't been able to totally count that yet, but you're gonna put at least 200 units in the pod for you. So here's the kind of pod. I will do in next week's video a pod setup as well as a Dexcom setup as I do those throughout the next week. So that way I'll have some information for you there. Some basic information about the pod is on the back, but it has a nice pull tab to access the pod. I would recommend, just from my personal experience when I was on the Omnipod before, when you open the pod, remove the syringe, the needle, put them together, fill your insulin, and then leave the pod in this little package and fill it up with insulin and let it go ahead through the priming process. That way, if you need to move it, you can easily just pick up the whole little tray that it's in and move it around. I feel like that works the best. So that's my first Omnipod 5 little tip and trick, which that also works for the normal Omnipod Dash, and then I believe it's Omnipod EOS, which is the 3rd generation. I think that's what they officially call it. Anyway, so that's that. Let me kind of gather some of this. I ordered from, I got it on Amazon, Omnipod 5 gel cover. I think they have 3 options, and I believe they come from a medical supply company. It's a soft rubber silicone type cover for the PDM. Omnipod does supply a black cover, which I actually like better. It's a thinner material, a little bit more, I guess, industrialized is what I would say. It slides a lot easier and feels better in the hand. So that's why I kind of am using the black one versus the blue one that I purchased. I wish I could have got a thinner one in a different color or have more color options in these. I do really like this. I like how both have Omnipod on the back. And the one that comes from Omnipod has a little, I think it's a speaker cut out, but you also, it looks like it has the indentation on the back for you to attach like a little lanyard to the PDM if you wanted. So that's pretty cool. You have to press the lock button on the side to unlock the PDM at any point, and it will tell you your automated mode, my insulin on board. Underneath the time, it does say Justin's Omnipod. If found, please call, and it lists my number, and that just kind of scrolls around, which I think is a good safety feature for Omnipod to place on these devices, just in case we happen to forget them somewhere. So to unlock it, you simply swipe up, type in your 4-digit code, and then the enter button. So let me get to the home page. So I left my PDM in my office while I was outside. So it's searching for my CGM. It will connect shortly. But you guys can see that I'm in the automated mode. It has a purple theme to it. My last bolus was 0.75 units. I can view my Cgm graph. I can click the little insulin vial here to do a bolus. It'll tell me different information. So right here it should say my CGM reading, which it should load in a second, but my Dexcom on my watch is reporting 128 and stable. You can click the insulin tab and it'll let you know that I am in auto mode, or automated mode as Omnipod calls it. If you were not and you were in manual mode, it will tell you what your current basal rate is, and the theme for the manual mode is blue. And then the pod info, so you can see that I have 50 plus units of insulin in my reservoir, and my pod expires tomorrow, July 17th at 5:57 p.m. If I want to view pod details, just kind of gives me that same information on a bigger screen. The BG check, or the blood glucose check after pod activation in 90 minutes is on. That's a reminder. It'll remind me 6 hours before my pod expires. That's something that I set up personally. And then it will also remind me at 25 units when that's remaining on the pod. That's something I also set up personally. You can change those last two items for what you would prefer. And then if for some reason I need to change my pod, I can click change pod. The PDM will deactivate the pod, which you can see it here on my arm. And then I can remove it and discard the pod itself. So if you click, oops, I clicked a button, my bad. So there's this menu up in the top left-hand corner. If you select that, it gives you some information so you can switch the mode between manual or automated. If I was in manual mode, I could set a temp basal rate. I could go to activity mode, which will change my target blood glucose from whatever my setting is to 150. It gives you that pod information that we were just at in a different place. I can manually enter in a blood glucose, or I could pause my insulin, which the pause insulin is kind of grayed out because I am in automated mode. So if you wanted to pause or suspend your pump for an extended period of time, you'd have to exit the auto mode and go into the manual mode to then pause your insulin. The manage programs and presets for basal programs and temp basal presets is also grayed out because I am in automated mode. So the history detail as well as notification history is under this history tab here. So if I hit history detail, you can see that so far today my average blood glucose has been 129. I've been within range 100%. I have not been high or extremely high at all today. So far, my total insulin usage is 22.4 units. My basal insulin, that's been 100%. I have not eaten or bolused at all since midnight. So that's why the bolus insulin and total carbs are grayed out, because I haven't eaten anything. If I go back to yesterday, you can see that my average blood glucose was 163 with a CGM range of 71%, with 29% of that being high. Total insulin for the day was 109 units with a basal insulin 64%, and that would have been 69.5 units. And then my total carbs for the day is 187. If I wanted to scroll through, I could see my history throughout the day of what I did. It gives a little Dexcom icon that I used my CGM value to do a correction, and then what that correction was. you can hit that little arrow and see that the blood glucose came from the CGM, the bolus was calculated, and I'm in my normal thing. One thing I like about Omnipod is for every bolus, you can view bolus calculations, and the Omnipod does a really good job of explaining that to you. So meal insulin on board adjustment, was there one? How was it calculated? Correction, meal bolus, all of that will come all the way down to your total, which I think that is something that is very beneficial for any diabetic to kind of see, especially if they're learning what is the pump doing. So moving on over, I hit the wrong button and it exited out. So if we're back at the history detail where we were, if we click auto events, Medtronic, please take notes of this. So it will give you your CGM value every time the CGM updates, and it will also give you the increment of insulin that the pump automatically gave you. So for example, at 11:31 this morning, my blood glucose value for the Dexcom was 128, and the Omnipod gave me 0.3 units of insulin. I wish that more automated pumps. I'm not sure about the Tandem. I know that Medtronic did not. It gives you the little pink dot that you got a bolus, and it's so much harder to see. But I can scroll down through here and see that when the Omnipod is giving me insulin, it's anywhere from 0.2 to 0.3 of a unit. Some are 0.25. Oh, there's a 0.35. So it kind of fluctuates, and I like that I can quickly scroll through that and see. And it does count that insulin a little bit if it's a larger one, or it does an automatic correction towards my active insulin on board. So that's a cool thing to kind of know. So back on the menu page over here, we'll scroll back down. That does scroll. For the first day, I was trying to figure out how to turn my brightness up, and I couldn't. But here's this little settings window. If you click it, you can get general, transmitter, reminders, glucose goal range, basal, intent basal, bolus, and about. But if you go underneath general there, that's where you can connect your PDM to Wi-Fi networks that you are around often. So this PDM does have an AT&T SIM card in it, so it will upload your data through that AT&T network, but it's also best to get to connect it to some Wi-Fi networks. So I have mine connected to the work Wi-Fi here as well as my home. And then if I'm in transit anywhere else, then it can use that AT&T SIMs card. You can select your screen display timeout as well as your brightness, the message that's on your lock screen. You get several different background options. You can scroll through and pick one that you like or prefer. And then your device time zone as well as some alarms. And then you can totally reset the device. So that's there. So the main thing that I love so far with the Omnipod is the basal, oh wait, I gotta find where it is on here, is the bolus options for the automatic mode. So bolus calculator, you can set target blood glucose and correction values for the pump to use depending on the time of day. So me personally, I like my nighttime numbers to be just a little bit higher than my daytime numbers, just because I am asleep and I would prefer the sleep instead of an alarm to wake me up and have to treat a low. So when you go, I have segment 1 for me personally scheduled at 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. I want my target blood glucose for the automated mode set at 120, and I want the pump to correct for any glucose value above 120. You can change that. If you wanted your blood glucose target to be 120 and you didn't want it to do a correction above 130, then or below 130, then you can have it set that limit as well. So that's the way that's set up. You can kind of see the start end time, the target blood glucose, and then the correct above. And if I'm just going to click this to let you guys see, I can go all the way up to 200 for that value. So I think that's really cool that Omnipod allows for that. If you're comfortable with your blood glucose being 10 to 20 points above your target, then you can set that correction just to give you a little bigger of a safety net. So when you click next, it goes through the rest of the time period. So then from, let me go back. So then from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., I'm at 110 and 110. And then from 10 p.m. to midnight, finishing out the day, we're back at 120 for the rest of the night. So when you press that information, you get to see it just like your basal patterns are in a normal manual mode pump. So I think that's really cool that Omnipod offers that. I'm going to cancel and get out of this. So that's so far in the first little while of me being on the Omnipod, my initial thoughts. I personally am excited that Omnipod, one, because I'm trying to lower my daily insulin usage while also staying in range and have better control of my diabetes. So how do you do that? You focus on things like intermittent fasting, low carbs. I'd like keto. I'm currently trying to get back started on keto now with the Omnipod to see how it functions, because if you've been following along on the channel, you know that I had a lot of issues with my Medtronic pump before. So I'm curious to see how that goes. So far, with only being 72 hours in with the Omnipod, the pump seems to be doing very well with adjusting to my lifestyle. The first pod, I didn't do anything normal. I had the normal diet that I normally would have, and I used the pod. I think it lasted about between 30 and 36 hours. So I didn't quite get 2 full days out of that pod. I got a little less than 2 days. I changed it. This new pod, tomorrow I will most likely get 2 full days out of it. And then as I continue to let my body adjust with my getting back in the habit of low carb keto, I should start to get to where I'm not filling the pods with 200 units of insulin, and then that will last me the full 72-hour life cycle of the pod. So that's kind of my overall goal. It is a little bit of adjustment coming from a Medtronic pump that holds 300 units to the Omnipod, which only holds 200. So since I've been on the Omnipod for about 3 days now, I'm going to share some personal experience with it. I was on the Omnipod originally for about 3 to 4 years. It was the 2nd and 3rd generation Omnipod. I love the pump. However, at the time, the health insurance plan that I was on would not cover the standalone Dexcom. So we got started on the Medtronic 530G system with the in-light sensor, and then we just purchased the sensors out of pocket. So that was how I got started with Medtronic. I had the 530G for the full 4 years, as well as the 630/770G for the full 4-year warranty. This month, August of 2022, my Medtronic 770G, since it was an upgrade, will expire with the warranty with Medtronic. So that was kind of one of the pushes for me going ahead and get started with the Omnipod, is I didn't want to have an insulin pump that was out of warranty in case anything happened, it was damaged, and then I was going to be a little screwed. Since I do have the full, I did use my full warranty, I do still have my Medtronic 770G pump, and I'm kind of a hoarder. I have my Medtronic 530G pump as well, with some insulin supplies for those if I needed to use them just as insulin delivery methods. My Dexcoms, I picked those up from a local pharmacy here, and my Omnipod 5s have to be shipped out from a Walgreens community pharmacy, which just so happens to be in Austin. So they did do really well. I'll praise Walgreens. They went through the process very smoothly with me, and I paid the copay for my starter kit here, and they had it shipped out the next day, and it was overnighted to where I received it Wednesday before lunch. So I thought that that was very well handled with them. But back on track with the personal items for me, I feel naked without my tubing. That's my honest opinion. You don't realize, you know, when you are trying to change clothes and you hold your pump. I used to stick mine in my mouth and hold it while I'm using my arms to change clothes, or you're holding it in your mouth, you're trying to dry off after getting out of the shower, or you're disconnecting it for the shower, different things of that nature. In the past few days, I've been able to change, and I'm not worried about my pump. I mean, as you guys can see, I have my Omnipod on my left arm here and my Dexcom on my right. It's been going very well with me. I actually, the first Omnipod was right here, it was a little too low on my arm. I say that because I think there was a lot of muscle tissue where the cannula was inserted. So I did get a slight discomfort occasionally when it would pump. My arm would burn a little, but I would do a stress ball motion with my fist, and that would kind of work that through. But I did put it a little further back, which that is where I usually kept my Omnipod before. So that's kind of the area that I do enjoy. I am going to experiment with my next pod on my legs, the outer part of my legs and the thigh area, to try to work on that. I do have some stuff planned in the future that water will be involved, and just to give basically we're going to a water park, just share that with you. And I found that when water activities like that are involved, the pod gets a little bit of protection from the inside of my swimsuit. So that's why I'm going to focus on my legs just a little bit. I will focus on moving my Dexcom to some new areas on my body to try and free up arm space for my pods. But I do not miss connecting or getting my tubing from my Medtronic pump caught on drawers, doorknobs, the refrigerator handles, all types of things like that. The dog's paws and legs when they jump on me, and those different types of things. I don't miss disconnecting that pump. Actually, ironically, my last night with my Medtronic pump, the infusion set got disconnected from the tubing to the site in the bed, and I woke up with a 300 blood sugar. I didn't realize that it was disconnected until I was trying to get ready for my shower and untangling the pump from my little band that I use to sleep with, and the tubing fell down. I was like, oh great, that's why my sugar's high. It's because the pump came disconnected. So at least with the Omnipod, they prefer you to be able to see the little clear window at the top to see if it is leaking insulin or having any issues. That little clear window is there for you to view, and then you're gonna know if the pod gets ripped off. So that's kind of one thing that, even with two huskies jumping on me and moving around, they've been sniffing the pod, trying to figure out what it is on me, but so far it's been relatively easy. Haven't had any issues with it. So I'm very excited for the future with this system and how the automated mode functions. I just remembered, so I'm trying to show you guys this dashboard. So as you can see, now my transmitter has connected. My blood glucose is 130 and steady with that information. So you do still have to keep, if you're using the Omnipod PDM, you do have to keep your smartphone to connect to the Dexcom app full time. So I can leave this PDM in my backpack, in my office at work, and go anywhere in the building that I would want, and the Dexcom still communicates with the pod via Bluetooth. So at that point, it's a good idea to at least keep my personal device on me, which I believe most of us would anyway. So that way we can monitor our Dexcom to make sure the system is functioning correctly. If your sugar starts to go high, then you would need to probably come get the PDM and do a correction, or if you're gonna bolus. But most of the time I leave my PDM here in my office at work, and I'm around the building in different areas, and things work smoothly. I do feel that the PDM fits perfectly in my pocket. I kind of give it its dedicated pocket, and I'm not worried about breaking my phone. If it breaks, it has a warranty on it, and I can deal with it while it's broken, but this I don't want to break. So my PDM gets a dedicated pocket in the front, and I will either have my personal phone in my hand or in my back pocket, and I reserve my card key for my other pocket. That's just the way that I am. I try not to put the keys in a pocket with any of my devices, so that way they don't scratch the screens or damage them. So that's just my personal preference. But so far with the Omnipod 5, it's been enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. The system communicating works very well, and I am excited to see what happens in the future. If you guys have any questions for me, drop a comment down below, and I'll try as quickly as I can to respond to those. And I'll keep you guys updated, hopefully with a video next Friday on this matter. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.